So, recently, one of the big things in the discussions is are we or are we not going to leave the single market, and are we or are we not going to stay in the customs union? Now, either one of these things could be basically very bad, but today we're focusing on the customs union. So, we're going to be reading the chapter on Turkey, because Turkey is a country that is not part of the EU but is subject to the customs union, which is how Britain could end up. So, there is a slight chance that Britain could leave the single market and stay in the customs union. As we saw earlier, the European single market allows for the free movement of four things: goods, capital, services and people. On the other hand, a customs union is only about the taxation of goods. It allows goods to be moved between its members without paying tariffs, and has one common tariff arrangement for goods coming from outside of the union. So you can move, say, pasta from Italy to France without paying any tariffs at the French border. But if you wanted to export pasta from the United States to France or Italy, you would have to pay the same tariff. Currently, only one major country is outside of the EU and inside the European Customs Union, and that is Turkey. Its case is very different to Britain. When Turkey joined the Customs Union, it was a stepping stone to full EU membership, the latest chapter in Turkey's historic journey towards the West. Since then, a growing European nativism and the rule of hardline President Recep Tayyip Erdogan have put paid to those dreams. There are some advantages to being in the customs union, even if, like Turkey, they are on the outside of the single market. It removes tariffs in trade with Europe and allows you to enjoy the benefits of any deals negotiated with outside countries by the European Commission's very experienced negotiating team, who are arguably the best in the world. Nevertheless, the chances of Britain remaining in the customs union are slim to non-existent, given that a country cannot conclude its own trade deals in a customs union. May's creation of a Department of International Trade seems to be something of a very giveaway about the direction of travel. There is a reason for that, which owes more to politics than economics. Remaining in the customs union would make ministers' lives more difficult. They urgently need a sunny upland to counter all the doom and gloom being reported by journalists about the perils of Brexit. They are currently able to do this by pointing to the trade deals Britain will be able to negotiate with major economies in the future. This is far more problematic than they make out, but staying in the customs union would deprive them of even that meagre political currency. The business costs of this piece of political decision-making are very high. Raoul Rupard, who was hired by David Davis to provide expertise on the Brexit process, has admitted that leaving the customs union would reduce the GDP between 1 and 1.2% in the long term, and the UK economy about 25 billion a year. Other studies expect to hit the GBT to reach 4.5 by 2030. This is because leaving the customs union opens up a Pandora's box of bureaucratic horror, and as we saw in the introduction to this book, the first thing businesses exporting to the EU will have to do is provide information about their products in order to establish its classification code. That code then allows them to ascertain the tariff and work out their exporting process costs. This is not a simple process. Take biscuits. Biscuits come under the designation of composite agri-goods. These are established by percentages of milk fat, milk proteins, starch or glucose, or various forms of sugar in the product. To calculate the final rate, you have to cross-reference 504 potential recipes of 27 kinds of products, leaving 13,608 categories of baking or confectionery goods, all with potentially different export rate duties. At the border, customs official will stop the goods and check the classification, along with the background information on the product, like whether the salmon, say, is frozen or whether it is wild or farmed. Because tariffs are calculated on cost, they must be assessed assess the stated price of the item to see if it is being used to limit the tariff. They will then decide whether the correct amount of customs duty has been paid. Then the real nightmare begins. Country of origin checks. They assess not only the country the goods has come from, but also whether its components part originated is disparagingly complicated. The key issue is whether the EU has a preferential trade agreement with third countries who have made component parts for the product. Take cars. Cars often have parts made from all over the world. A car has lots of component parts from Mexico, and Mexico does not have a trade agreement with the EU. The vehicle may be blocked from entering the customs union or charged additional duty. So businesses sending its products to the customs union is also likely to have to establish where every single component originates from. For products that are often built with parts from all over the world, this can be a Herculean task. The certification for a specific item lasts for 3 years, but that is not much use to a manufacturer. Its products will keep changing as different components are spliced together. Every time that happens, a manufacturer will require a new certificate. For many businesses, this bureaucratic requirement is more damaging to their day-to-day operations than the tariff itself. Usually the tariff cost can be absorbed, but the inconvenience of country of origin checks are particular and costly obstacle to trade. There is another final aspect to the customs union which will bring back gloomy memories of middle-aged Britons. Leaving it will transport holidaymakers back to the days of excise duties. That means a return to limits on how many bottles of spirits and packets of cigarettes can be brought back into the UK. With all the aspects of Brexit, these effects can be prevented. Countries in the European Economic Area, for instance, have a mutual recognition of authorised economic operators, which reduces much of this burden. But to do so requires time, patient negotiation, and as we have seen, these are in short supply. So there you go, that's the customs union, and as you can see, it's not as complicated just leaving it as many people seem to think they can do. It would cause massive problems for our industries, as you've just seen. It's going to lower our GDP and cost us about £25 million, which is a lot of money. So as you can see, us staying in the customs union is going to be a massive bonus, just as staying in the European single market is also going to be a massive bonus. Will people listen? Will the Tories want this to continue? We quite frankly don't know, because as we've stated, we were just beginning to enter the nightmare that is the Brexit negotiations, and you'll hear for the next probably 2 years the forthcoming nightmares that are going to be the result of this. So what do you think? Do you think we should stay in the customs union? Do you think we should leave the customs union? Do you think, even though I've just told you the potential pitfalls of this going to happen, do you think we're randomly somehow going to be all right?